Welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm ranking every Blox Fruit in the game based on trade value and real player demand. From the top tier fruits everyone wants to the ones nobody even touches. This is the ultimate Blox Fruits value tier list for 2025. So sit back and let's see where your favorite fruit lands. All right, here we go. I've created a full tier list that includes every category: overpaid, demanded, average, somehow useful, and nobody cares. This list covers all Blox Fruits, from the 50 Robux rocket all the way up to the 5,000 Robux dragon. So let's begin and see where each fruit stands. It's the cheapest fruit in Blox Fruits, just 50 Robux, super low value, and everyone already has it. That's why Rocket easily goes straight into the nobody cares tier. Spin. It's basically a trash fruit. 75 Robux, around 75,000 physical value, and only about 15 million permanent value. With almost zero demand, Spin also goes straight into the nobody cares tier. Blade. It's one of the few fruits with an M1 attack, and its demand is slightly higher than the previous two. With around 20 million value and a 100 Robux permanent price, Blade fits perfectly into the somehow tier. Spring. It's basically a trash fruit, mostly used for jumping, just like its name. It costs 180 Robux and has about 45 million value, but players still prefer Blade over Spring, so Spring also drops down into the nobody cares tier. Bomb. This fruit recently got a rework and is now one of the best common fruits, dealing insane damage. With a 200 Robux price and 55 million permanent value, Bomb firmly belongs in the somehow tier. Smoke. A mostly trash fruit, it costs 250 Robux and has about 85 million permanent value. Despite the price, its low demand puts Smoke in the nobody cares tier. Spike. Another mostly trash fruit, mostly popular because of its flashy movement. It costs 380 Robux and has around 63 million value, so Spike lands in the nobody cares tier. Flame. This fruit has a permanent value of 220 million and costs 550 Robux. It's stronger than all common fruits, making it a solid pick in the average tier. Ice. This fruit has a permanent value of 310 million and costs 750 Robux. Popular among beginner players and stronger than many other fruits, Ice fits nicely into the average tier. Sand. This fruit has a permanent value of 380 million and costs 850 Robux. Though slightly less in demand and value compared to Flame, Sand still earns a spot in the somehow tier. Dark. This fruit has a permanent value of 340 million and costs 950 Robux. With decent demand and solid stats, Dark fits perfectly into the somehow tier. Falcon. Recently reworked, this fruit has a permanent value of 400 million and costs 975 Robux. With solid stats but average demand, Falcon belongs in the average tier. Diamond. This fruit has a permanent value of 450 million and costs 1,000 Robux. With better demand than Rubber, Diamond earns a spot in the average tier. Light. With a permanent value of 430 million and costing 1,100 Robux, it's a bit overpaid. Great for grinding and highly demanded, Light lands in the demanded tier. Rubber. Known as the Luffy fruit, it has a permanent value of 450 million and costs 1,200 Robux. With decent demand and unique abilities, Rubber fits into the somehow tier. Ghost. A mid-tier fruit with a permanent value of 530 million and costing 1,270 Robux. With decent abilities but moderate demand, Ghost fits into the somehow tier. Magma. A sea event hunter fruit with a permanent value of 530 million, costing 1,300 Robux. Though slightly overpaid, it's strong and highly sought after, earning a spot in the demanded tier. Quake. Currently considered a trash fruit and in need of a rework. With low demand and limited usefulness, Quake sits in the somehow tier. Buddha. One of the best fruits for grinding, with a permanent value of 615 million and costing 1,600 Robux. Previously considered overpaid, it's still highly sought after, earning a spot in the demanded tier. Love. This fruit has a massive permanent value of 750 million and the longest attack range, costing 1,700 Robux. Despite its power, it has moderate demand, placing Love in the average tier. Creation has a permanent value of 730 million and costs 1,700 Robux. But with slightly lower demand, it sits in the somehow tier. Spider comes in at 750 million permanent value for 1,800 Robux, but its low demand keeps it in the same somehow tier. Both are decent fruits, but not enough to move higher on the list. Sound and Phoenix. Sound has a permanent value of 790 million and costs 1,900 Robux, with solid demand, placing it in the average tier. Phoenix, on the other hand, comes in at 830 million permanent value for 2,000 Robux, but with lower demand, it lands in the somehow tier. Both are strong fruits, but their demand really decides their ranking. Portal. This fruit has a permanent value of 840 million and costs 2,000 Robux. Despite its high price, it's considered slightly overpaid, so Portal lands in the overpaid tier. Rumble, with a massive permanent value of 1.10 billion and costing 2,100 Robux, it's extremely powerful but highly overpaid. That's why Rumble sits in the overpaid tier. Pain, with a permanent value of 1.94 billion and costing 2,200 Robux, this fruit recently got a rework. Strong and highly sought after, Pain easily fits into the demanded tier. Blizzard, this fruit has a permanent value of 859 million and costs 2,250 Robux. Though slightly overpaid, it's still strong and highly sought after, placing Blizzard in the demanded tier. Shadow, this fruit costs 2,410 Robux and has a permanent value of 1.94 billion. Extremely strong but very overpaid, Shadow firmly belongs in the overpaid tier. Gravity, with a permanent value of 1.94 billion and costing 2,300 Robux, Gravity is slightly overpaid. Highly effective for PvP and still in demand, it firmly sits in the demanded tier. Mammoth, this fruit costs 2,350 Robux and has a permanent value of 1.94 billion. With high demand and strong performance, Mammoth comfortably fits into the demanded tier. T-Rex, with a permanent value of 1.94 billion and costing 2,350 Robux, this fruit is highly sought after. Thanks to its strong stats and demand, T-Rex sits firmly in the demanded tier. Doe, with a permanent value of 1.94 billion and costing 2,300 Robux, Doe is one of the best fruits for PvP. Despite its strength, it's slightly overpaid, so it lands in the overpaid tier. Venom, this fruit has a permanent value of 1.94 billion and costs 2,450 Robux. Although extremely powerful, it's overpaid, yet still highly sought after, placing Venom in the demanded tier. Control, with a permanent value of 2.04 billion and costing 2,500 Robux, this fruit went viral thanks to its control waitability. Highly sought after and very strong, Control comfortably sits in the demanded tier. Gas, this fruit has a permanent value of 2.1 billion and costs 2,500 Robux. One of the best fruits for PvP, but slightly overpaid, Gas lands in the overpaid tier. Spirit, with a permanent value of 2.1 billion and costing 2,550 Robux, Spirit is great for PvP. Highly sought after and very effective, it firmly sits in the demanded tier. Tiger, this fruit costs 3,000 Robux and is great for PvP. It recently received a rework but remains slightly overpaid, so Tiger lands in the overpaid tier. Yeti, with a permanent value of 2.2 billion and costing 3,000 Robux, Yeti is extremely strong. However, it's considered overpaid, so it belongs in the overpaid tier. Kitsune, this fruit has a permanent value of 3 billion and costs 4,000 Robux. Extremely powerful but very overpaid, Kitsune firmly sits in the overpaid tier. Dragon, with a permanent value of 3.88 billion and costing 5,000 Robux, Dragon is truly the god of all fruits. Of course, it's extremely overpaid, placing it firmly in the overpaid tier. And that's it. The complete Blox Fruits tier list ranked by value and demand. From the cheapest rocket to the god tier dragon, we've covered every fruit in the game. Which fruit is your favorite, or which one do you think should be higher on the list? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Blox Fruits updates and rankings. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.